Hello, I'm Jamal Myers and welcome to the first edition of the Boxing Breakdown here on Seconds Out. During this show, I'll be providing you with in-depth fight analysis with, in this case, George Groves versus Eubank Jr. But first up, I'm going to be giving you some of the biggest headlines in the world of boxing this week. Now, obviously, I'm sure you've all seen there's been a lot of talks that Linares versus Lomachenko is going to get finalised this week. Now, there has actually been a snag in the past 24 hours because the date that was actually signed, well, that was hoping to get signed this week, was May the 12th. Now, the problem with that is, with HBO, is that the Canelo-Golovkin fight, which airs on May the 5th, they're going to air a replay of that on May the 12th. So HBO are looking to make a lot of money from this fight, and part of that will come from replays, so they don't want to lose any money in what is definitely the biggest fight of the year in world boxing. So Linares-Lomachenko, hopefully it will happen in May, because that's going to be a stacked month for the sport. Obviously, in Easter we have the Joseph Parker versus Anthony Joshua fight, so we've got a lot to look forward to this year. In terms of how that fight goes, it's a bit difficult because, you know, Lomachenko's coming up in weight, and obviously all the boxing experts, the purists, he's probably the favourite for a lot of them since Floyd has left the sport. He's definitely a fighter that I idolise him and a huge fan of. He does things that many can't achieve in the sport in terms of his movement. He sees shots that guys in the sport don't see, that fans who are analysing the fights can't conceive that he will land them, but he still manages to do that. He's definitely a fighter that's also explosive, even though he's technical, which is a pairing that we rarely do see in the sport. Obviously, like I've just said, Floyd was probably the last person to do that, but even his explosive style went towards the end of his career. On the flip side, Linares is the bigger fighter, and Linares is really, really technically sound, as is Lomachenko. I think he hits harder than Lomachenko. I don't think that's an outrageous statement. He looked really, really good in the Crawler and Campbell fights. Now, speaking of those guys, Anthony Crawler's been speaking about the possibility of a Luke Campbell fight for some time now. It definitely makes sense for both guys' careers, considering that, like we said, they both fought Jorge Linares. Campbell actually came out looking the better of the two. He gave Linares a much closer fight than Crawler did the second time. The first time it was competitive, but the second one, Linares completely outclassed Crawler. So it'd be really interesting to see when that fight happens. Right now, Eddie Hearn has said that he's targeting Crawler for the undercard of the Joseph Parker versus Anthony Joshua fight, which, you know, Crawler said that he does want to fight on that card, but Joe Gallagher's got to be thinking, you know, Crawler is a main eventer. He shouldn't be the undercard fighter, even though it is a massive, massive event, probably the biggest heavyweight fight in a long time, up until the potential, you know, should Joshua get through that Joshua Wilder, that's probably the biggest heavyweight fight that would happen. So in terms of that fight, I don't think that's next for both guys. I do think Eddie Hearn's going to push for Crawler just to stack up that undercard even more for that event, but we should get to see that this year, definitely. It's a win-win. It's a must-win for Anthony Crawler if he wants to be competing for a title again, and it's a win-win for the fans. And Luke Campbell definitely wants to get back in contention. It'd be a huge win, one of the biggest wins of his career, should he be able to defeat Anthony Crawler. Now let's get to the biggest fight of the year so far in the sport of boxing. We have George Groves versus Eubank Jr. in the semi-finals of the Ali Trophy here in Manchester, where we are now. Now, we rarely have 50-50 fights at the highest level in this sport, and this definitely is one of them. This is one where it really is splitting the fans right down the middle. I know I've been to and froing all week, to be honest with you. The way George Groves wins this fight, as a lot of the analysts have been saying, I agree completely with this, is basically do what... I know Eubank Jr. has evolved massively and he's come on leaps and bounds since the Billy Joe Saunders fight, but the way Billy Joe won that fight was that he boxed Eubank Jr. quite simply. He moved, he kept him at range with the jab. Chris Eubank Jr. isn't effective at range. He's not. His power comes from closing the distance, hitting to the body with hooks, and he has a relentless style. Now, George Groves hasn't fought a fighter like Chris Eubank Jr. that is relentless like this. He's a pressure fighter. Carl Froch, even in the first fight, that was a war. And fans seem to think that this is going to be an all-out war. But if George Groves steps in there with the mindset of meeting Chris in the middle, going toe-to-toe, he's going to be in for a short night, because that's not how you're going to win against a fighter like Chris Eubank Jr. You're going to have to use your mind, you're going to have to outsmart him, you're going to have to be on the back foot, essentially. And I think Groves could do it if he fights intelligently, but there are going to be moments where, when you've got a fighter chasing you down like that, there's only so much you can run, and when the distance is closed, it's going to be telling just how good Chris Eubank Jr. really is, because we've not seen him fight on a stage like this before, when he's been in this peak physical condition. His trainer said the other day that he literally doesn't step out of the gym, he doesn't have training camps. This is a lifestyle for Eubank Jr. Whereas Groves, Groves at the press conference yesterday, he didn't, it might be a weight thing. I know he's made the super middleweight limit tons of times now. Eubank Jr. is the one stepping up, so he looked very fresh. He's eating, he looks healthy, but Groves, I don't know whether it's age is catching up with him, even though they're both, Groves is 29, Eubank Jr. is 28. He just didn't look like he wanted to be there at the press conference yesterday, but maybe it's that was because it's fight week. The mind games are getting a bit lethargic now for him. He might want to just focus on the fight. And that's fair enough if it is, because it's been a long build-up to this fight, even before it was actually made, because people knew that this fight was going to happen in this tournament one way or another. And in terms of what's at stake here, the Ali Trophy, make no mistake about it, is no joke. The winner of this most likely will go on to win the trophy, in my opinion. And the winner of this becomes, I think certainly if George Groves wins this fight, he asserts himself in the super middleweight division. It's just difficult, because Chris Eubank Jr. has got it all to prove. He's got everything to prove in this fight, and George hasn't been on the other side of the mind games. This is what a lot of people aren't recognising. George was at the forefront of the mind games in the Carl Froch fight, and it did work for him. It did work for him in the first fight, but in the second fight, the mind games, it just didn't work for Carl. So it's going to be interesting to see how the mental aspect has played for George when it's on the flip side, because Eubank seems to be definitely winning the mental aspects of the game. Obviously, he's got Senior in his corner, who's a genius at the mental side of fighting. So it's going to be a really interesting night on Saturday night. And one of the guys that he's fighting on the undercard, I managed to catch up with him this week, Danny Craven. So here's the interview with that, and I hope you enjoy it. How does it feel to be on such a massive card like Groves versus Eubank? Did you see yourself this time last year fighting on the stage?
Do you know what?
Like this?
I was saying to my missus the other day, and I went to watch Drake at a concert a year ago at the MEN, and I said to her, he said, imagine it one day. He said, imagine me boxing here one day. He said, imagine it. And then a year later, I'm boxing on the biggest British boxing card in the country, Groves versus Eubank, and it's an amazing feeling. Like, literally, I can't describe the feeling, how good it feels to be on such a big card like this. It's amazing. Are you in a position where you're trying to not get too excited about it? You've got a job to do. Absolutely. You don't want to think too deeply into it. No, because my last fight, I was at the Echo Arena, and I boxed Isaac McLeod, and that was the first time, being in front of the cameras and the media and, all these big stage lights, and it was, I think a lot of that got in my head before the fight, and I was nervous, really nervous going into that fight, and I think I've not only learnt to box on the big stage now, I've learnt how to deal with the cameras and the media and stuff, and it's becoming a lot more easier. Like, the more you do stuff, the easier it gets. So for me, I'm being able to deal with it a lot better now.
You said you were nervous going into the fight, but it didn't seem to have that much of a factor in the performance, because a lot of people thought that you won the decision.
Yeah. For me, I won the fight here, you know, and I believe I won the fight. I just didn't get the decision on the night, but, you know, I ain't going to cry about it. I'm going to learn from that, you know, and take it on the chin, and, you know, real champions, they come back and they prove themselves, and that's what I'm going to do.
Are you in the mindset now that you're consciously going into this fight thinking, I can't leave it in the hands of the judges this time?
No, this time they're going to see the real me now. They're going to see how fast I really am, how dominant I really am in the ring, because it wasn't the best performance I've ever put on, but it was enough to do the job. Yeah. But I don't want to be doing that. I want to be clearly winning. These fights need to be clearly won by either knockout or outschooling the lads, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm out there to prove a point that I'm coming for everyone in the welterweight division.
We were talking on the way here, we were talking about the press conference yesterday.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that you'd be looking at the other guys there in the room thinking, you know, I've only had 4 professional fights, and I'm on this stage, and the last fight I had was on a stage of this magnitude too. Do you think that the rapid rise to the top you've had, do you think that's one of the quickest since turning pro that anyone's had in this game, in the country? Because I can't think of anyone that's, apart from when they've been signed by a really big promoter like you, Frank Warren, you Eddie Hearns.
Yeah. If you're going to get signed by Frank Warren or Eddie Hearns, expect to go in the fast track lane. You're going to be going straight up there. You're going to have the media, the press. You're going to have them straight on you all the way. You're going to get the big fights. You're going to get the big undercards. Me, I've started out with a small time promoter that's moving through the division, and he's becoming a big promoter. He started off with 1 or 2 fighters, and now he's got 20 or 30 fighters. For me, I think I am one of the only lads in the category that is doing his own thing by taking these big fights, because I know a lot of boxers in my weight division that are not taking the fights that they should be if they want, but they say they want to move up the rankings. I want a title fight, but no promoter's going to put you in a title fight unless you prove it to him. You really got to prove yourself in this game. You can't be saying, I want these fights, and then you're not going to take the lad beforehand who's had 3 knockouts or 4 knockouts. You need to constantly prove yourself in the game and move up the rankings by beating good opponents. I say it all the time, there's no point fighting a journeyman who's lost 30 or 40 on the bout, because, for example, Conor Benn is 2 above me in the British rankings, 2 above me, and he's had 11 fights now. Yeah. 11 fights. I've had 4 fights and I'm 1 or 2 behind him in the rankings, and it's only because he's not boxed them good opponents. He's not boxing good fighters, and you need to be boxing these good fighters. I've had 4 fights. I boxed lads that have had 9-0 records, 12 and lost 1. You know, good fighters and good pedigree behind him as well. So if you are going to go out and prove yourself in the boxing world, take the hard route, because it does pay off. It does.
Was that something that you and Kieran discussed immediately when you were negotiating a contract for him to be your promoter manager? Was that the mindset that you had, to take these hard fights straight away?
Straight away, yeah, because I said to Kieran at the start, I said, don't be getting me no idiots to fight. I said, I don't want to be like everyone else. I said, I want to do my own thing. I said, I want to fight the top lads straight away, because I believe in myself that I can do this. I said, I don't want to wait till 10-0 and then finally get a chance to prove myself. I said, I'll put me in a good fight now, and I'll prove it to you straight away. He went, right. He said, after my second fight, he said, Danny, he said, there's a belt on the line here. He said, it's a British Challenge belt. He said, do you want it? I said, straight away. Or I could have fought a lad there who lost 6 and won 3. I'm going to go for the belt straight away, even though it's from 4 rounds to 8 rounds, it's a step. But it didn't matter. I trained hard. I kept focused. I didn't mess around in camp, and it paid off, and I won the belt. And then I proved myself again by fighting another good lad, Isaac McLeod, at the Echo Arena, and that paid off well, because now I'm on another big card now, and that's what I want. I want to be on these big cards. I want to get the chance to prove myself to people that I am good enough to be on here. It's not about me taking the easy route. I'm going the hard route, and there's nothing you can do about it now. You know, Kieran's going out there looking for the best possible lad he can get me. I mean, for example, now I've got, after this fight, I'm on for a Central Area title on the Robbie Davies Jr undercard. That's at the Echo. So you see the levels, I'm going from level to level, and that's where I want to be doing. That's what I want to be doing.
You mentioned that first title fight that you had against Nathan McIntosh, which was, honestly for me, when you talk about small hall shows, the big arena shows, that's one of the best fights that I've seen in person. So many people coming up to me saying, did anyone get that on camera? I want to watch it back. I still want to watch it back, but it was outstanding. You guys stood toe to toe. Even on the ropes, you know, you were throwing, when you had your back to the ropes, you were just going at it, and you rarely do see that. And like you said, it was a win-win situation for you. You had a lot to lose, because even if you didn't win that fight, you've took a guy with a much better record and much better ring experience than you, and then for you to win that fight. Can you talk about that experience going into that fight and what you learned from being in a fight like that?
So that fight, you know, we had a little bit of weight problems on the day. You know, I was losing weight to make that fight, but put that aside, mentally I was ready for it. There was nothing that was able to stop me in that process. As soon as he said, Danny, there's a title fight, I thought, wow, this is the best title, you know, I'm going to win in your career, even though there's a lot bigger titles out there. But that camp leading up to that, I knew I was going to win. I knew it in my heart, I could feel it, I felt good all the way through it. Even though I had the weight problems at the time, you know, I felt good. When I got to the fight night, I was pumped, I was ready, I was controlled in my head. I had a game plan out. I was going to do. I was going to box continuously for 8 rounds, and I was able to keep that pace because I was super fit. I was out every day. I was out at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I wouldn't be back till 8 o'clock at night. I was out all day training, doing what I had to do, you know, making sure that I was going to be strong, I was going to be fit, and I was going to be ready for this fight. It paid off because he can bang, he can hit hard as well. You know, he'll keep coming. He'll be there for 8 rounds. You know what I mean? He was no mug to be in with. So, but the only thing that I done what he didn't do, I wanted it more. It meant more to me than it did to him, because he had the belt and he was trying to defend that, and he had a good record. So I don't think he was training that hard for that fight with the way I was. I want it a lot more than anyone else in this boxing industry, and I'm going to keep proving it each fight.
Do you pride yourself on being that sort of fighter, all action? The fans, I remember when I first saw you fight, I didn't know who you were, and the crowd was crazy on your entrance. I thought, if he delivers as much as he's done in his entrance, and you did, he knocked out the guy in the first round, I was like, what, who is this guy? And then straight away, your career's escalated to the point where we're at now. Who is it that you looked up to growing up? Because it does seem that you have got, you know, you've definitely got a special following. You've got an aura about you when you're in the ring. Like, everyone, arse in the seat, everyone knows that you don't want to take your eyes off the ring.
No, don't blink, man. Don't blink. I am an exciting fighter, I think, now. I'm starting to learn that within myself. I'm energetic, I'm fast-paced, I'm clever, I'm learning each fight now, and getting stronger, I'm getting that knockout power as well. The people I looked up to, I look back on older fighters and new upcoming fighters, and I tried picking little things out from different fighters and practicing them myself, like Roy Jones Jr, you know, amazing. You know, one of my all-time favourites, Sugar Ray Leonard, brilliant to watch. Then you got like Ricky Hatton, you know, the amazing body work, and then you had the flash side of it. You got Nazim and, you know, Kell Brook, you know, all fighters like that. You know, they've all got different calibers about them, different styles, the way they are as a person, and the way they are when they're in the ring. For me, picking out them little things and practicing them little things has helped me to find my own style. And I say it to everyone, said, how'd you get good at this, how'd you get good at that? And you practice what other people are great at doing, and then you find your own style, how you are doing it that way. So that's worked for me in that essence. And being the fighter that I am today, you know, I love entertaining the crowd. I'm not a flash person or nothing. I'm strictly like business when it comes to the boxing. You know, I'm not going to focus on the fans, and that after I'll come and shake your hand, and I'll spend lots of time with you after the fight. But during that process when I'm in there, it's just me and it's him. And the way I see it, I'm winning. I'm going to win, and I've got to win. I can't go back to my corner and say, I can't do this, I've had enough, I'm not going to give in. It's whoever wants it more when you're in there. And if you're good enough in here and you're strong enough in your mind, you'll be able to accomplish a lot of things.
I mean, arguably, in your gym at the moment, you've all got the biggest fights of your careers lined up right now, like even this week. So we've had Daryl fighting on the undercard of the Coley Chamberlain a week or two ago.
That was brilliant,
Then we've got you this week, we've got George Brennan and Lee Clayton on title fights on Friday.
Yeah.
Is this the best atmosphere to have in a gym? You're all working towards similar goals.
We're all aiming for the same thing in life: to be good, to be great, to be champions. We all want to get to the top level in boxing. We all want to be great. Having this calibre of fighters now around me just makes me more determined to work harder. I want to become better each fight. I want to have more belts around my waist, you know, same as every other boxer. We all want belts, we all want to be champions, but everyone has a different style of fighting, and that's what makes fights good as well, having different styles. So having this calibre around me just encourages me more to work harder every day. You know, if I see like George Brennan and Lee Clayton getting up at like 4 o'clock in the morning going for runs, I'm like, God, you're mad, it's freezing. I hate getting out of bed, I really do hate it, but I know like my opponent's probably doing that. He's probably been out since 4 o'clock, and he's going to be out again later on. So I've got to do it. I've got to work harder than anyone else. So being around these people only encourages me to work harder.
Is it difficult for you not to be there on Friday for your teammates?
It is difficult, you know. Much love to you all. You know, I wish I could be there, but I'm preparing for my own fight, my own big night, and you know, they know as much as I do. You know, you got to prepare right for your fights. You can't be sat there till 11, 12 o'clock at night, you know, thinking about the fight. You got to get your rest. You got to refuel, get in your mindset for the next day, and just relax. If I'm out there watching the lads box, I'm gonna be ready to go then. You know what I mean? So I need to be at home, relaxing, taking my mind off it, and just doing my own thing.
Can you talk a bit about your relationship with Kieran as a promoter? Because he's a very much family orientated guy, isn't he?
He's
both
like me.
Out of the ring and in the gym as well. So in terms of he seems like the type of guy to me who's going to be constantly telling you, you're going to make it, you're going to make it. He's a really inspirational guy. He's like that on social media. Is he always in contact every day? He's
just a humble, down-to-earth lad, and he's like myself. You know, he knows about... I'm not in a very fortunate position with money or, you know, circumstances and stuff. You know, and Kieran, he's been through all that. He's been through the hard side of life, and I have been through the worst side of life, and he understands that. So when I say like I fight and I don't get much money, and I've got to worry about paying them bills, I've got to make sure I've got food in my daughter's belly, I've got to make sure that, you know, I'm providing for my family, you know, so I'm working twice as hard as everyone else, and he understands that, because I don't go out splashing my money on a 2-3 grand watch or spending it on clothes, you know, because I don't need stuff like I need to pay the bills, and I need to look after my daughter and that, and I need to make sure that she's got a good future as well. So Kieran understands my work ethic, he understands why I'm doing it, he understands that you can't take that away from a man. If a man's got a job to do, he's got a job to do, and he understands that I'm going to do it. And at the same time, we have our laughs as well in the gym. We take the piss a lot. We have a laugh. Yeah. It's not all doom and gloom. It's not. It's a good laugh as well. You need to have that laugh in the gym with the lads as well. But when it comes down to business and your training and stuff, you know, let's get the job done, let's get paid, and let's go home.
In terms of your opponent on Saturday, how much tape have you watched of him? Do you take that into consideration much, or is it mainly just focusing on freshening up your skills?
I've watched a clip of him on YouTube. He probably done the same for me, but it doesn't mean nothing. I've seen his work ethic. He won't be able to handle the speed that I'm going to put on him. He's not going to be able to handle the pressure. I know that within myself. I can look at a fighter in the first 30 seconds, I'll know what to do with him. Any professional that's good enough should suss your opponent out in the first 30 seconds, knowing what they react to, if they're flinching or if they just got no defence about them. So you've got to suss that out with your opponents. It could be different on the night. He could have changed loads since his last fight, but we'll only know when I first get in there with the first 30 seconds.
How active are you looking to be this year?
I want to be active. I told Craven, I said I want to be active all year round. He said I don't want to be fighting every 3 months. He said if you can get me a fight as soon as possible, let's do it. Let's keep me busy. So after this fight, on the 31st of March, I'm out again for a Central Area title. So that's just going to keep me busy. I'm straight back in camp after this week. You know, maybe have a couple of days off, you know, but other than that, you know, straight back in, work again, learn from whatever I need to do. And I want to be looking like April and May and June and that. I want to be looking around that time, you know, getting back out again. We had a call, funny enough, to box in America.
Oh really?
Yeah, we had a phone call, and the only reason we couldn't take it is because I'm boxing on the Eubank undercard. And what's more important, you know, boxing in front of millions.
It's not a bad situation to have though, is it? Having those as options.
No, that's it. These options are coming through the door, left, right, and centre for me now, and I think that's just due to the people that I've fought, you know, and I'm fighting and beating them. It could be the style, I don't know, but then again, these options is what I wanted. It's like now it's surreal because I'm living in my dream now. I'm literally being in front of the cameras and I'm having all these people coming up to me signing autographs. You know, it's crazy, but you gotta be professional about it.
Is there anyone established in the game? I know Kieran has ties with a lot of really great boxers. Anyone that's been giving you advice? You've been up to Gallagher's gym recently, haven't you?
Yeah. I've been up to the Gallagher's gym a couple of times, but the only person that I really had a conversation with was Anthony Corolla.
Yeah.
You know, he's an amazing guy, down to earth, humble guy. Look up to him massively, and I think he thinks that, you know, I'm going to do the job on the night as well. To be honest, I've not really had many people talking to me, you know, that's high caliber as that, or giving me any advice. I think for me, I'm just living in my own head and listening to Craven, and that's it for me.
Well, I'm really excited for this fight on Saturday.
Myself.
I can't wait. Another one on TV for you, another one under the belt. Big stage. I'm guessing you're going to have a lot of fans from back home coming.
I would do. I think there's quite a lot of people are going from Warrington and that, but not everyone can get tickets because they've all sold out. But other than that, I know I've got the support back home. I know they'll be all watching it on TV or in the pubs or wherever they're at. So I've had hundreds and thousands of messages of everyone. So thanks everyone back home.
Also, a quick one. Main event. Really interesting fight, isn't it?
Yes.
I bet you're happy to just have a ringside seat.
I'm more happy to be watching Eubank smash it, yes, man, because I follow him on Instagram, Twitter and everything, and he is just a beast. He is. He's just, everything about him, you know, his presence. Yeah. It's just like his dad. Yeah. You know, and I can't wait to see him go out there, have that cocky brass side about him and just do the business, man.
You don't think Groves is going to cause him much
problems? Oh, well, I said yesterday on a press conference, I was saying it's a 50-50 bout for me, because Grove ain't no walkover either. Yeah. You know, you've seen what he done to Froch. You know, he is an amazing boxer himself. Like, a lot of people are underestimating him, but he's clever. He's really clever, you know, he knows what he's doing. He's an experienced pro. He's been in there with some really good fighters. For me, though, it's Eubank all day for me. You know, big fan of him, and can't wait to see him go out there and do it.
Well, it's going to be an exciting weekend for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Really excited. Thanks a lot for speaking to us, Dan.
Thanks a lot for watching. That's it for this week's Boxing Breakdown. I hope you enjoyed it, and make sure you like and subscribe to Seconds Out. Thanks a lot, guys.